Everybody, welcome back to the live stream. We have special guest with us today. It's Jake and now, Jake, I'm gonna go through your name. I should have did this before we came on the air. It's Jake Chansely. Is that how you say your name?
Yes, sir. That is correct. You're the first one to get it right the first time.
Oh, fantastic! He's better known as the Shaman, ladies and gentlemen, from January 6th. And just so you know, he says the media called me the Q Shaman or QAnon Shaman, but that is a straw man they created in an attempt to control the narrative and destroy my public image. You know, to be honest, I believe you, but I also believe that the outfit didn't help. That's that's all I'm kidding. So let's bring in Jake. Jake, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. And my shamanic regalia, I've been wearing for over 10 years. And only on January 6th did the media seek to give me any sort of attention because they could use it to fit their narrative. So
tell me about the what you call the shaman regalia. Tell me about it.
Well, I've been wearing it for over 10 years. It has symbolism to it. In the Dene or Navajo tradition, the coyote is the trickster. And I'm wearing coyote skin and coyote tails because I have the trickster by the tails. And if the trickster messes with the buffalo, he gets the horns. I also practice shamanism. In particular, I go along with the Hioka shaman, and they have for centuries, for millennia, dressed it in elaborate ways to kind of shock the cognitive system of the tribe and then bring them truth once their cognitive system has been shocked, bring them truth that the reality that they perceive and the culture paradigm that they're living in is not reality.
Sounds like terrorism to me.
Sounds like terrorism. Well, now I feel like an asshole for making that joke. But
well, I know he's a real shaman. I mean, it sounds like he was at the actual religious thing of being a shaman. What the QAnon thing? That's just the media attaching that. Like,
yes, that's correct. Alex Jones first coined the term Q shaman, and then the media went with QAnon shaman, and that's where it stuck.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you're a much more spiritual guy than people would have thought, certainly than I thought, right? And so all I know is the caricature that the media tried to paint or painted of you. And so that's why we're bringing you on, because I did hear that there's a lot more to you than meets the eye from the corporate media. And I'm glad that you explained that. That's a great explanation of why you dress like that.
Who saw that coming, that they got it wrong?
Who would think that the mainstream media would get something so important wrong? Well, I just wanted to show you this, and well, when you went to the Capitol, what was on your mind?
Well, I also went on December 12th and January 6th. So I went to 2 MAGA Million marches, and I went to them for largely spiritual reasons, first and foremost, because DC is built on electromagnetic ley lines like all the ancient pyramids, obelisks, medicine wheels, and temples throughout the world. And so DC having an obelisk and, you know, the congressional building, the Capitol, the White House.
What is an
obelisk?
Supreme
Court, the Pentagon.
Can you tell me what that is?
What's that?
What is an obelisk?
That's the Washington Monument.
You know, Washington's dong, the tribute to his dong?
No.
Why?
That's called an obelisk.
No kidding. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So all ancient sites, sacred sites, pyramids, obelisks, temples, medicine wheels, they're all built on these ley lines. And these ley lines are electromagnetic lines. They surround the earth. They go all the way down to the core. And there's certain portions of the planet where on the crust, they cross one another. And that's where these sacred sites have been placed. So Washington, D.C. is one of these sites where these buildings, you know, the Capitol, the White House, the Supreme Court, the Pentagon, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, they're all built on ley lines.
Really?
And so if there's going to be 1 million people on the ley lines, it's my shamanic duty to be there and ensure the highest possible frequencies are plugged into the grid. And, you know, I also have other like political reasons for going as well. In my opinion, there has been a long string of abuses that have not been redressed by the government. For example, the Federal Reserve, the IRS, the debt-based currency, the Tuskegee experiments, the radiation experiments, JFK's assassination. The list goes on and on, all the way on up to 33,000 emails being deleted, no prosecution, Uranium One, Benghazi. The Russia hoax for 4 years with no apology, no, justice. And then there's things like, COVID. And then there's things like the lockdowns and the riots for over 200 days. No, like 90 to 95% of the federal charges were dropped on those rioters. And then there's the Hunter Biden laptop suppression. And then there's the election. So There's a lot of abuses that have taken place, from the American federal government to the people over decades. So I felt that needed some sort of a nonviolent stand to be taken against.
So you're a spiritual guy. You're there to be nonviolent. You're there for all the right reasons. It seems like you represent, I don't know if it's the best part of America, but certainly a best part of humanity. And they turned you into someone who's trying to overthrow the peaceful transfer of power. They turned you into an enemy of democracy. They turned you into an enemy of America and Americans and the Constitution. And none of that could be further from the truth. Can you tell me? Well, first of all, I want to show you this. This is what presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy said at the last GOP debate.
The real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside?
Well, he said inside job. I don't know why that stopped right there.
I think
I don't know what happened, but it stopped right there. But he said
the clip.
Yeah, you've seen it. Everybody has seen him say that. Why is he the only one on that stage who is saying that it looks like January 6th was an inside job? Actually, Vivek, I don't know why you're the only one. It's kind of suspicious, actually, not to be a QAnon about it, but it is weird, right? He is saying that he's saying it's a completely inside setup job. He believes there's a deep state and they are destroying America and Americans from within. Now, if only he would come around to admitting that the COVID scam was a deep state thing as well, that we'd be right on course. But what's your reaction when you saw that?
Well, first of all, January 6th was a setup. We know that based on the fact that Yogananda Pittman did not get intelligence to ex-Capitol Police Chief Sund. We also know that the Pentagon, Mark Milley, they didn't get the information about over a dozen known terrorists being in the crowd on January 6th. We also know the FBI didn't tell anything to Chief Sund. We also know that Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell took away Chief Sund's emergency powers before January 6th, a couple of weeks, through a law where he had to ask them to deploy the National Guard to protect the Capitol. So all of this intelligence suppression and the changing of the laws, it all indicates very real intelligence suppression, not intelligence failure. And intelligence suppression means that there very likely is a setup. Now, with that being said, I think it's important to note that a lot of people that are running for office, including Vivek Ramaswamy, as I like to call him, he has talked about the deep state, and none of them have actually described what the deep state is, which I can do in 2.5 minutes. And if you can't explain something simply, then you don't understand it fully. So I would challenge these candidates that are running for president or Congress, as I am running for Congress, to explain what the deep state is and just stop using it as a boogeyman to get votes.
So can you explain what the deep state is?
Absolutely. So the deep state is comprised of 3 different apparatuses. Number one, it is the corrupted checks and balances within our 3 branches of government, because if you corrupt the checks and balances portions of the government, then you obfuscate them and you're able to centralize power. Number 2, it is the bureaucracy, the over 500 federal agencies that are tasked with quote unquote regulating commerce. And through writing regulations, they are in effect creating law. They also have their regulatory enforcement agents, which act like basically law enforcement for these regulations. So they have law enforcement, and they also have their own judicial court, their own administrative legislative courts that are outside the federal court system. So they have consolidated legislative, executive, and judicial powers into a centralized power that we call the bureaucracy, which constitutes a fourth branch of government. And the centralization of all three branches of government into a single power is the founding fathers' definition of tyranny. Now, the third part of the deep state is the international corporations, the international banking cartels, the NGOs, and the special interest groups that are both writing the regulations for these regulatory agencies and using the government's monopoly on the initiation of force to reinforce their monopoly on our resources, labor, and currency. But they're also using lobbying and things of that nature to corrupt the checks and balances portions of our government. So what we have here is essentially international cartels that are corrupting our federal system, both in the three-branch government system and in the fourth branch of government that we call the bureaucracy, and essentially using the government's monopoly on the initiation of force to monopolize all of our resources, labor, and currency. And that is tyranny. Wow, well said. You know, I'm sorry, I forgot to actually read your introduction when I was so excited I got your name pronounced correctly. But you were sentenced to 41 months in prison after pleading guilty to violent entry and disorderly conduct on the Capitol grounds. And you were released this past May. That is a mistake. No, I'm sorry, Jimmy. No, I pled guilty to obstruction of an official proceeding. Oh, that was it? 1512. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. And you got 41 months for that. That's, child molesters get less than that. Why do you think that, first of all, did you violently enter the Capitol? No, I did not. How did you get into the Capitol? I walked through open doors. Now, granted, those open doors were kicked open from within, and there's no denying that. But once I saw the violence that was taking place outside and the chaos, I felt it absolutely necessary to protect the sacred chamber, the police officers, and the congressmen that were inside that building, because it is a sacred chamber. And I knew the only way that I could do that was by going in myself, even though I knew that it may end up getting me in trouble. And, stopping theft, stopping vandalism, stopping violence being my motivation is clearly shown, because 30 seconds within my entering the building, I stopped somebody from stealing from a break room. Shortly thereafter, I helped the police. I volunteered to help the police clear the Senate chamber. That's why they were walking me around the building from locked door to locked door, because I volunteered to help them stop vandalism, violence, theft, and help them clear the Senate chamber. And upon exiting the building, I was the only person that actually went up and tried to stop people from breaking in. I blasted Donald Trump's tweet out over my megaphone telling everybody to go home. And I told everybody to go home and stop what they were doing. So my intentions were quite clear, but the Mockingbird media narrative and the government narrative were such that they could not have that truth get to the public. And so now I've been saying on this show for quite a while that January 6th was a setup by the feds that were the FBI feds and Metro Police that were implanted in the crowd that incited those people to go into the Capitol, and was also aided by the cops who took the gates away, because I saw that happen on videotape. And then I saw them walking people. I do a bit about it in my act, where they went up to the cop and said, "Hey, where's Mitch McConnell's office?" And the cops took them. And then they all took selfies with the cops. And my whole theory was that they instigated January 6th to happen so that they could criminalize Donald Trump's political movement, so they could get Donald Trump out of the way, so they could get another puppet of the military-industrial complex in place to go do the wars that they wanted to do. And he wouldn't do them as fast as they wanted, and he wouldn't do as much as they wanted. In fact, he ran on pulling us out of the Middle East and getting out of all those Middle East entanglements. So that was already immediately a problem for the deep state and the military-industrial complex, which are they work hand in hand. So that's my theory on why they did this and why they over-prosecuted people like you. Do you share that theory? Oh, absolutely. It was a setup that turned into a psyop. And the psyop was intended to vilify Donald Trump and his supporters, as well as label his supporters things like domestic extremists or domestic terrorists, to create the illusion that somehow, some way, Donald Trump and Americans that want to save their country are dangerous to the very constitutional republic they're seeking to salvage and save. So I just wanted to play this for you. Joe Rogan commented on this briefly, and he said this.
Everyone's going to jail.
Yeah.
People that shouldn't go to jail are going to jail. If the cops let you in the door and they give you a tour, you're going to jail. Like, we're going to call it a violent insurrection, and everyone's going to jail. And we're going to let you in. We're going to open up the barricades, and we're going to have federal agents in the audience encouraging you to go into the house. And then when we're under oath, we're going to say we can't answer whether or not federal agents were inciting people to go into the Capitol.
Like, how ethically inappropriate do you think everything about that is?
It's
like,
so
dude, it
bad.
is so bad.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
If this was happening from the right, if this was Trump doing this, people would be losing their shit. You should be losing your shit if it happens in any political party. This is wild. Everyone.
So
I love that clip.
Yes, and so, you know, the federal agencies that you talked about, the deep state, they don't actually protect us from anything. They plot against us all day, every day. They don't stop terrorism. They don't save lives. They don't save money. Ever wonder where that maliciously selfish and dishonest college roommate went after they got older? They got jobs in the deep state. That's where they went. So when you see that, that has to warm your heart, right? Because that's the #1 talk show host in the world, and he's got a clear vision of what happened, and he's speaking about you there.
Yes, I watched lots of Joe Rogan, and he's very sharp. He's very well informed. He's very open-minded. He's open-hearted, and he's funny. So the fact that he's able to condense the truth of what happened on January 6th into like a 1-minute clip is just, it's evidence of his eloquence and his intelligence.
Well, can you show this clip of Joe? I hate to debunk this clip for you, but look, you see how the video has been turned black and white to hide how green Joe is from not getting vaccinated? Bam! You just got Reutered.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for adding context to that clip.
I had to add context. So here's actually January 6th footage shows the Capitol cops escorting QAnon Shaman to Senate floor. And there it is. I've seen that video. I've seen that happen. And you already explained what they were doing. So they found you to be helpful to the cops inside in stamping out violence. That's why they were.
I volunteered. They didn't come up to me and ask me. I came up and asked them if I could help them.
So I'm sure you've seen this too, but I want to play it for people. This is Nancy Pelosi's daughter, Alexandra, and here's what she says about you.
I mean, what did the shaman do? He stood there. What did Pope do? He stood there. The shaman got how many months? 41 compared to 8. So when I saw that, I was like, and I think that the government is going to go for more, that they're going to look to get bigger. Like, people are criticizing some of the people that got home convict. A lot of people have been getting probation and stuff. So I think they're looking to make people, like, I think if Paul went now, he'd get a longer sentence.
What did he do? What did he?
So she's there admitting you did nothing. That's Nancy Pelosi's daughter admitting on a secret videotape that you did nothing. Now, when you see that, does I can't help but have it gets rage inside me towards the machine, because now she knew it, and so she's a lying scumbag because she wouldn't come out and say that. She wouldn't come out and stand up for other Americans. Instead, she would go along with the deep state psyop that used and weaponized the justice system to push a political and nefarious political operation. How do you react to that?
Well, I would say I have done my best to forgive, not necessarily forget, but forgive my captors, because the fact of the matter is, to a certain extent, I understand why it is that they chose to make an example out of me because of the power of the Mockingbird media. Do I think that it's the American way? Not at all. Do I think it is tyrannical? Absolutely. But if Jesus can forgive the people nailing him to the cross, then I can forgive. However, that does not mean that I'm not going to speak the truth to power. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to blow the whistle as loud as I can and expose the government corruption, because if we don't do something about this problem now, where are our children 7 generations away going to be? What is going to happen to them if this kind of stuff can happen in plain sight and nothing is done about it?
Yeah, I fear. I also fear. And so I just want to let people know that you're actually running for Congress, right? So you're on the Libertarian ticket in next year's election for Arizona's 8th congressional district seat. Now, what part of Arizona is that?
That's like northwestern Phoenix area. It's a big area of land, but I've lived in District 8 my whole life, pretty much, except for when I was in the Navy and when I was in prison. So I've lived in it for 30 plus years. And a lot of the people that are running, especially on the Republican ticket, they don't even live in District 8. They just see it as a slam dunk because Debbie Lesko has gotten 90% of the vote over the last several decades. So, as a libertarian, and so I'll put it this way. I'm trying to make my campaign as antithetical to all of the problems in American politics as I can. I am not accepting campaign donations because big money is a big problem. And because it's a big problem, I'm not going to participate in it. I'm also running in as a libertarian, a third-party candidate, because the two-party system has divided this country and taken everything from the American people in the process. And the only thing that we've really gotten in exchange is more poverty, more wars, more taxes, crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis, and less freedoms. So I don't want to be a part of that problem either. And I'm also not going to be running any smear campaigns against my opponents because, in my opinion, you don't need to run a smear campaign against everybody if you're the best, and I'm the best.
So I would I'm really thrilled that you decided to come on the show today, and I'm glad that you made yourself available to our audience. You are the exact opposite of what the corporate billionaire-owned media and the deep state wanted to portray you as. And you seem like someone that I would like to get to know better because I feel like I could learn a lot from you. And I'd like to offer, if you do you do fundraisers? Because I would definitely come to Arizona and do a show and to donate the proceeds from that show to your campaign. Would you do something like that? Because I'd like to do that if that's possible.
Well, it's entirely possible for you to come out, but I'm not accepting donations from anybody because times are hard enough on the American people. And if you want to, say, contribute to the campaign, you can go to my website. It's shamanforcongress.com. That's shaman, F-O-R, congress.com. And there we have resources where, like, for example, if you wanted to, Jimmy, you could, like, say, for example, buy a spot on a billboard here in the 8th district of Arizona for a certain amount of time, and that would contribute to local businesses here in the 8th district, and no money would have to be exchanged between you or I. You could also do things like, ads on X, or we also have free memes that we're going to be handing out to people because we don't want. Well, I don't want people's money. What I'm asking for is their support, their signature, so I can get on the ballot, and their vote. And the cool thing about all three of those things is they're free.
Yeah, but everybody knows you're gonna. It would be nice if you won, and I'm
planning on it. I'm planning on winning.
And so money helps, but I think it's smart to not take money from corporations or big money donors. But if you took small dollar donations from people who need a voice, I think that that's a good idea. We really need people like you in government, I think. And I don't want you to handcuff yourself in such a horrible way that you don't win. And so I think a lot of people, I don't think that compromises you to have someone do a fundraiser for you. I don't know. We should probably talk about this off the air. Who gives a shit, right? But anyway.
But I'm all for it. Come out to Phoenix. I'd love to meet you, man. I would love to shake your hand and thank you for all you've done.
Oh, okay. I would love to shake your hand too, and I'm sure we will soon. We come out there at least once a year, and we play the Tempe Improv, and I can't remember the last time we were there, but it will be there in 2024 for sure. So, and if you likewise, if you ever make to Los Angeles, please let me know.
Absolutely.
I'd like to take you to lunch or something like that, if that's okay. All right, if that's
as long as it's organic.
Okay, for sure. Well, Jake, Angeli Chansely, the shaman from January 6th. Thanks so much for taking time to spend with our audience, to get people to get to know you. And we wish you all the best in your congressional run in Arizona's 8th District. Thank you so much.
Well, before I go, if you don't mind, I'd just like to tell you what it is that I'm running on.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And it will be very quick. The promises that I give to the people of the 8th District of Arizona and the American people as a whole, because a lot of the same concerns in the 8th District are the concerns of the American people as a whole. The promises I'm running on the campaign platform are, number 1, a single bill voting law. Number 2, an amendment for term limits for congressmen and staff. Number 3, a criminalization of lobbying. And number 4, 7-figure fines, expulsion, and prosecution for all Congress members caught insider trading. Now, the interesting part about this platform is that Matt Gaetz, when I did my Newsmax interview a couple of weeks ago, not even a day or two after I did that interview, Matt Gaetz started talking about doing a single bill voting law. And then he introduced his own little anti-corruption campaign, or anti-corruption plan, rather, that just so happened to be my campaign points, in particular, getting rid of lobbying, getting rid of insider trading, and term limits. So this is very effective. And already from Arizona, without even being in the Congress, I have moved the needle in D.C. more than anybody else has in any sort of congressional run. So I do believe that I will be more effective than any Congress member ever, especially now.
So that's got to make you feel good, actually, that Matt Gaetz picked up your ideas and ran with them. No?
Well, it's indicative that they're good ideas. And plus, trust me, I've got a lot more. I've got a lot more really good ideas. I'm just running on those 4 things because everybody can agree on them. Republican and Democrat, Libertarian and Green Party, Independent, they can all agree that these things need to happen. So that's why I'm saying I'm the best candidate, man. I'm going to be a real representative of the American people.
So let me just break down those. For the first thing you said was single issue bills, meaning right now they'll put a bill together in Congress and they'll say, hey, do you want to give school lunches to poorer kids? Well, in order to do that, you also have to vote for funding for the Ukraine war, and you have to vote. So it's all, they put too much stuff together in one bill. And so you're saying stop doing that. Let's have single issue bills. You want to vote for school lunches? Let's do that. You want to vote for a tax cut? Let's do that. You want to vote for funding a war? Let's do that. Let's not push all those things. You want to vote for border security? Let's do that. Let's not push all those things together and make people vote against things that, or for things that they don't want to. That's what single issue voting is, right?
Correct. And what's really important about that as well is that once you see these single bills get on the floor, when you see what special interest groups' agendas are being pushed and who's voting for it, you get to see, kind of like NASCAR members wear their corporate sponsor on their suits. You'll get to see who is the corporate sponsor or the special interest group sponsor of these congressional representatives. Also, those 2,000-page omnibus bills, they have to vote on that within 24 to 48 hours. Nobody can read 2,000 pages of law in 24 to 48 hours. So there's a number of reasons why this would be a good idea. And anybody that votes against securing the border and funding the border obviously is showing their true colors. Anybody that votes against something like, giving kids quality lunches at school as opposed to these preservative-filled, genetically modified garbage that they're getting now is, it's obvious what side of the fence that they're on. So that's why that is the first thing that I'm going to do, because it'll expose the corruption.
Fantastic. Jake Angeli Chansely, thank you so much for coming on, and we look to have you on in the future. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, let's go to a break. We'll be right back.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit